kept hearing he's putting off surgery. He's putting off surgery. He's going to let it heal naturally. Do we have any clarification or clarity on how Jason's doing with an injury that's been nagging him for the past 2 seasons?
I think if he needed surgery, he would have had surgery this offseason. But the fact that he's working out with like everybody, right? And you see him that he's got to be 100%. I just don't understand why you would enter a season with a partially damaged wrist if it hasn't healed and that you need surgery. I mean, as we remember a couple of years ago, Jalen had his wrist surgery. The wrist is a very sensitive part. You land on it. I mean, obviously, every time you hit the floor and you try to brace yourself, that there's your wrist. So that's a delicate injury.
Celtics Beat is brought to you by FanDuel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network.
Hey everybody, welcome in. New Celtics Beat as we sit here in mid-September. That means, of course, training camp rapidly approaching, preseason games, even the regular season. It's not too far away. And but honestly, it's the run-up, it's the ramp-up. We've been talking about it for weeks. Not a whole lot has changed or is new specific to Boston, but we do have some news in the league that might be relevant to your and our beloved Boston Celtics. We'll dive into all of it. Adam Kaufman, Evan Valenti, and of course, the man of the hour, though we won't go for an hour, Gary Washburn of the Boston Globe. Gary, welcome back.
Great to be here.
So I'm wondering, are you bored? Like, what have you been up to here? Do you just want basketball to start, or are you enjoying your summer and early fall?
It's kind of both. I mean, I'm enjoying the time off, but I know it's going to end soon. But you're looking forward to basketball. I mean, like the World Cup kind of was okay, but the game times are so wacky that you really just couldn't sit there and watch games. You had to like follow on your app or watch it on ESPN Plus or whatever. So it wasn't normal. But I'm kind of in the middle right now. I'm looking forward to the season, but I'm going to treasure the last few weeks off.
I was going to ask if you were getting up in the middle of the night to watch any of those games, but that wasn't must-see TV for you.
Some of the games, like I watched the Lithuania game, watched the Germany game, obviously lost to Germany, but yeah, like a lot of them I tried to catch here and there, but no, I wasn't getting up. And I was in Jamaica for some of the games, so I had to either watch on my phone or I couldn't just watch on the app. Like there was no ESPN where I was it was like ESPN Caribbean. So they were just showing nothing but soccer or cricket, things like that. It was, Jamaica's not the place for like NBA and NFL and college football coverage or whatever. So yeah, I missed a lot over the early part of September and the late August in terms of like the sports world.
I guess the good thing is, as it relates to the Celtics, you didn't miss anything, because when it comes to the FIBA World Cup, the most important thing that Celtics fans care about is just that Kristaps Porzingis did not participate, resting that foot injury, and that's about it. That's about as much as we actually care about, much as you'd like to have pride in the country and all of that. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it'll matter next time around when all the stars decide to actually play, because they're so, put off by what just happened. And then, Jason Tatum or Jaylen Brown end up being involved. And then sure, we can, worry about that down the road. But for right now, let's just get into Porzingis a little bit. Any concern going into the regular season about that foot? I know that we're expecting, load management and rest and not going to overdo it and all of that. But I think that's true of his entire time in Boston going forward. That's not just a start of the season thing. So as of right now, are we presuming health when the season begins?
Yeah, I mean, I think the hope is that you kind of slowly bring him into training camp, and then by the time the season opener on October 25th, he's ready to go. And he's already had about a month off of that foot. Plantar fasciitis, I mean, I personally have dealt with that off and on for the last like 12 years. And it is, you just got to stay off the foot, like ice it, stay off of it or whatever. It's not a fun injury to have. I could presume being a 7'3" guy, and obviously tall guys definitely have a history of foot issues, that they're just going to be very cautious with that injury. I haven't heard anything that just says, "Oh man, it's worse than what it is." You hope that he comes in healthy because obviously health has always been an issue with Kristaps Porzingis in his career. But he did play 65 games last year and actually, sat out the last 6. So he could have played 70 if he probably needed to. So that's a good sign. So you just hope that this is just the Celtics being extra careful, especially what happened with Danilo Gallinari last year, where they're prized kind of free agent. One of them, and Brogdon was the other, not free agent, but just kind of an acquisition, gets hurt in FIBA ball. So I'm sure the Celtics are like, okay, we're not having that again. We're not going to have him tear his plantar fasciitis during a Latvia game with Montenegro, and suddenly he's out for 6 months. So I could understand the Celtics being cautious with that. So that's all I've heard right now. I'm concerned because he's already starting off injured, but you hope that this is just something minor. And they're key, and the fact that last year he was relatively healthy.
My concern, though, Gary, is it's kind of the yeah, but here, and we won't know till we know. So I don't want to, just go to the ledge and assume the worst. But historically speaking, and personnel, medical, all of it, like it turns over time, obviously. But historically speaking, the Celtics as an organization have a reputation for downplaying injuries, and then they turned out being worse, more severe, simply take longer to return. And it's guy after guy after guy. There are so many examples of it going over the last 20 years and as recently as the last couple of years. So this is not something that we just look back to like the new Big Three era. This has happened more recently with people like Rob Williams and others as well. So does that enter the back of your mind at all to where you say, okay, he should be okay, but maybe he's not?
Of course, and the same thing with Malcolm Brogdon. We've heard nothing about his elbow injury other than he didn't get surgery, obviously. So you hope that he's coming into camp healthy too, and he's completely healed. We really haven't heard much about that. So, I'm sure the Celtics want to be as healthy as they can be, but obviously they're not going to they're not, like you're right. They're going to downplay an injury, but I don't think this is a situation where they're downplaying. I think it's probably a situation where he just signed and it probably wasn't worth it for him to play for now. Maybe does he try to play in the qualifying? Does he try to help Latvia get into the Olympics? And I don't know when those qualifying tournaments are, and if it's during the NBA season, absolutely not. So that might be his last shot playing with his home country and trying to get them into the Olympic Games. But I think the Celtics are just trying to be as safe as they can be, but we never know what's going on. Like you can't assume anything, Adam. You're right. You just, as we know, like I'd be very highly surprised if everybody in camp on October 2nd is completely 100% healthy. There's going to be some type of nagging injury. We'll see how Malcolm's the one I'm concerned about too, because we've heard nothing and he's angry with the team. So I don't think communication between the two sides have been fruitful. So he could just say, listen, man, I'm not getting no surgery. I'm just going to let this heal. And y'all just going to have to wait for me to let it heal. It could be somewhat of a protest for being on the trade block or something. I don't know. But you would think that wouldn't be the case, but we'll see October 2nd, when or that October 3rd, when that first practice is, like actually who's on the floor.
Well, let's go right there though, because I think that probably raised an eyebrow for people out there listening. If Malcolm Brogdon, I would get it. I'm not blaming him, but if Brogdon's upset with the team,
he is. He was.
Question, like how concerning is that? Well, that's
he was not happy. And now was that he was not happy in July? Is he the same level of unhappiness in September? We don't know. He hasn't talked all summer. People have tried to reach him, or he hasn't spoken at all summer. So we don't know. It's just like Marcus Smart. Is Marcus Smart as hurt by the trade to Memphis now as he was in July? No, because now he's kind of into being a Memphis Grizzly. He sees the future. He's excited. So does time let those things kind of dissipate? But yeah, like Malcolm Brogdon was not happy about the deal. Or being potentially dealt. He was pissed.
I want to get into another nagging injury that nobody's really talked about, and only because you mentioned a few of them, I was just kind of re-entered my brain because we haven't thought about this for a while because he hasn't played basketball for a while. But Jason Tatum's had a wrist injury, what feels like 2 postseasons in a row here. And again, we kept hearing he's putting off surgery. He's putting off surgery. He's going to let it heal naturally. Do we have any clarification or clarity on how Jason's doing with an injury that's been nagging him for the past 2 seasons?
I think if he needed surgery, he would have had surgery this offseason. But the fact that he's working out with like everybody, right? And you see him that he's got to be 100%. I just don't understand why you would enter a season with a partially damaged wrist if it hasn't healed and that you need surgery. I mean, as we remember a couple of years ago, Jalen had his wrist surgery. The wrist is a very sensitive part. You land on it. I mean, obviously, every time you hit the floor and you try to brace yourself, that there's your wrist. So that's a delicate injury, right? So if I'm Jason Tatum, if I need to, I need to have this procedure. So obviously he hasn't, unless he is just absolutely against having surgery. So as a Celtics fans, and you hope that that's the case, that he is just he is healed naturally and he's ready to go. I talked to him at the Hall of Fame about a month ago. He seemed excited about the season. There was no wrap on his wrist or anything when I saw him. So I think he's ready to go. And I'm sure there's something he'll be asked at training camp about, like, how's his health, and he'll say he's fine. The fact is that it could be something that could cause some discomfort, but the fact that he hasn't had surgery, there's been nothing procedurally done to it, leads me to believe that it's not that serious of an injury, and he's played through 2 postseasons with it now. So maybe this is just something that he deals with. I would assume, considering that he's worked out, he's doing all these, deadlifting 900 pounds and all this stuff that you guys see, that the wrist isn't, a factor in him, literally trying to be, Charles Atlas. I mean, it's just like
he's deadlifting like 450, like it's nothing. He's just up.
Yeah, he's a strong dude. I mean, he's wiry, he's strong. I was impressed with Jason's strength.
Oh man. I watched that video. I'm like, he can add more weight to that. He's doing that pretty easy.
Yeah. I mean, and I think the fact that, and the working out with Pierce, and I think, working out with Jalen, and I think he was working out with Kevin Durant. So, I mean, if he's hooping like that and doing those things, I think he's ready to go. I mean, obviously, as we've talked about before, this is a humongous season for the franchise and a humongous season for Jason. I mean, obviously he's going to get paid next year, so it's not going to affect his finances. He's going to be maxed, right? It's not any situation where he's not going to be maxed. But for his personal reputation in terms of being a leader, a star, the man, MVP candidate, this is a tremendously important season.
So I'm sorry, I got to go back because I'm just between Tatum's wrist and Brogdon's arm and Porzingis' foot and Malcolm's pissed. Like, this is a real,
they're back, Kaufman.
This is a real, like, our pets' heads are falling off edition of Celtics beat right here, unintentionally. That was not the goal, but now I'm sort of stuck on Brogdon, like you were talking about his discontent with the organization, not knowing what it is right now versus what it was. Obviously, maybe he's sort of made terms with the fact that it's a business and he's over it and he's going to get himself ready for the season. But I don't know. Is there? I know we're sitting here in mid-September. Is there any chance that he's not on this team?
I would think not. I think he's on the team. I mean, I don't know if I don't think they're trying to deal him again. I just think it was something where it was either him or Marcus, and it was Marcus. So they need him. That's the thing. It's not like
you'd have to deal him for a guard. Yeah.
They don't. It's not like they don't need Malcolm Brogdon. They do. So there's going to have to be conversations, and I'm sure there have been over the summer, to just say, hey, man, this is the business. I mean, Malcolm's been traded before. He was traded from Milwaukee to Indiana. He's traded from Indiana to Boston. So this is not something he's not used to. I think he's a total pro. He's 30 years old. But I do think I don't know whether he was not informed about the deal, whether or he got learned how he learned. Like Marcus revealed that he, was told a week before that he wasn't going to be moved, and he was moved, and he found out, his fiance found out, and he was asleep when it happened. It could be how it was relayed. It's an interesting dynamic there, but I think that, Malcolm's a grown man. I think he understands, but that doesn't mean he's not upset about it. So I was told, yeah, he was not happy with how things went down. Now, does that increase his level of mistrust in the Celtics organization? But I do think you eventually get over it. I mean, this is the new NBA. There's trade requests, guys playing for teams they never thought they'd be playing for. Trade requests don't go through. Things happen. This is the new NBA where like these things just don't happen. These things happen all the time. And there's, Jalen was mad about being dangled for Durant. Like, guys got to get over the feelings. This is the way it is. And it's not like they're not tough or I'm challenging their ability to deal with adversity, but this is the way it is. Like, you're playing for 20, he's making $21 million, $22 million this year. He's playing for a championship caliber team. So I think he'll eventually understand, if he doesn't already, that, hey, this is a big deal. I got to make this happen.
Get ready for the NFL season with incredible offers from FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets. Guaranteed. That's guaranteed. Plus, all customers who bet $5 will get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Now is the best time to join FanDuel. It absolutely is. The app is easy to use, and you can be on everything from spreads to player props and more. So visit FanDuel.com/Boston. Kick off the NFL season with an offer you won't want to miss. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL.
You talked about what a huge year it is coming up, not only for obviously Jason Tatum, but the entire franchise. Gary, in the past, I see people in the YouTube comment section. I've been accused, probably rightfully so, of making too big a thing about Marcus Smart's departure, not giving Derek White, new starting point guard, the proper credit. And so here are some numbers that will certainly support people. Now, Smart and White on the court together last year, the team had a +12 net rating. Now, Smart, no White, even, or, -0.2. White, no Smart, +10. +10 net rating with Derek White on the floor, Marcus Smart not on the floor, neither +2, so still efficient. So, this would tell you with Smart on the floor, no Derek White, he has, been a net negative at least last year. You are someone who, at least a year ago, was still kind of not really a Derek White guy. Now,
No, it wasn't.
He obviously had a very good year this past year. So
yeah.
Where you stand right now is Derek White. Obviously, he is the new starting point guard for this team. But are you comfortable with that?
No, I'm not. And I'm not, nothing against Derek. I just think, I mean, him playing point guard, I think he's probably played flashes in San Antonio, of point, but championship point guard, I don't know. That's a big responsibility. I think he was very good in his role last year, coming off the bench, playing that kind of supporting cast role, but running the show, telling guys where to be on the floor, running the offense, getting the guys the ball. I just need to see it. And I'm not saying he's not capable. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying, oh man, this is going to fail. No. I'm just concerned. I think I'm going to need to see Derek White log serious minutes at point with that combination and how it works. And do they need to get another point guard? Is it going to be Peyton Pritchard, Delano Banton, whoever they're talking about? I don't know. But I do think that this is someone. It was eye-opening when Mazzulla said that. But they know more than me, so I'm sure they're confident that Derek can do it. So I'm not going to doubt Derek. I said I didn't think he didn't have a good season coming in, like the half season he spent. I thought he disappeared at times. He didn't play with confidence. Last year, I thought he had a tremendous season, all defense, just, was just completely comfortable with a full training camp, and his confidence was brimming. I mean, I think he's one of those guys that confidence is a big deal to him. Some guys, their confidence never wavers. They're going to take shots. They're going to do. Derek's not one of those guys. Derek needs to have confidence in order to flourish. So you hope that he can deal with adversity, deal with maybe a bad turnover, and come back and make a good pass, make a good play, make a good shot. So I'm, him being the floor leader in a sense, I'd like to see that before I'm like, oh yeah, it's going to work. It's a little, I thought they would make, Malcolm has been point guard in previous years. And as much as he was a sixth man of the year, a lot of people and the analytical folks thought he was terrible in terms of certain situations defensively, that he just shot too much, or he was not, he didn't make his teammates better. So I thought maybe he would get the opportunity since he had been point in Indiana and Milwaukee previously. So I just want to see it. I'm not as convinced, that's not an instant plug and play Derek White at point guard as I think maybe other people are looking at it, because I just haven't seen it. I don't know if you guys have seen him play point extensively. If you want to count the San Antonio days, how much point did he play? Next to Tyus Jones. Is Tyus that's the one in San Antonio, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think you're right.
Yeah, because there's the brother who just got traded to Washington,
right.
And so the Tyus Jones and other guys, that's a good question. I don't know how much extensively he played.
Tyus just went to Washington.
Sorry, Tyus.
Yeah.
The younger brother, the one that's with the Spurs. I don't know how much he played over that. So I need to see. Huh?
Trey Jones.
Trey Jones, exactly. Trey. Yeah.
Got to be another better than T, guys.
I got to get my Jones brothers together.
Trey and Tyus. It's
Trey Jones.
Best, though. I love Tyus.
Mix up. Well, I mean, look, Gary. I think of the three of us, Evan here is the one who is probably most comfortable with the idea. He's on this for a while.
Let's break down what Gary just said, because I think there's a couple of good points in here. First off, let's also admit that I would not be shocked if they flipped Malcolm and Derek at some point in the season if Malcolm's running better with that group. I have a little more confidence in Derek White just because I think last year was sort of a revelation. We'll see if we can do it again. But he comes from a good system with the Spurs. I just think that he's one of these connector guys that seems to just try and make things work. You're not trying to get in the way too much. You want to let Jason and Jalen kind of dictate most of what happens, but he's always willing to kind of make that extra pass. I like him a lot. I love him defensively. That jump shot, we'll see if it sticks. I think, him and Coach, was it Ben Morrison that spent a lot of time with him and working on that jump shot. But I will say one thing that I think Gary brought up is confidence. One of the things that you don't want your point guard to lack is confidence, because the game ebbs and flows, right? There are highs, there are lows, everybody goes on runs. So in that regard, the confidence issue would be one that I think would give me a little bit of pause. But my question to Gary is more about maybe the lack of championship point guards in the NBA today. How many true championship level floor generals are out there? You could argue two of them are on the same team in Golden State with Chris Paul and with Steph Curry. I just don't think there are a lot of guys out there that Jimmy Butler is one of these guys that can, dictate a game when it gets tough. LeBron, obviously, that goes without saying. I just don't think there are that many level guys in the NBA anymore. I think it's kind of everybody's a combo guard now, right? True point guard kind of died. And true point guards are more like, point forwards now. Like you're seeing more of a Luka or more of a LeBron and a James Harden and like stuff, guys like that. It's not really just about one guy controlling the flow of the game anymore. So my question to you is, as we look back at this team and try and figure out, do they have a championship level table setter on this team? I just don't think there are many out there, A, and B, if it's one of them, I almost think it's Tatum rather than Derek White.
Yeah, I'm just afraid of putting more responsibility on Tatum and saying, okay, Jason, be all NBA first team and also run the damn offense too. And just run and walk the ball up the floor and also defend well. And like, that's a lot. Like, I just rather see less on Jason's plate in terms of ball handling than more, although I think he can be a good point guard or kind of floor leader, maybe not point forward. So I'm not as highly enthusiastic about like, okay, we'll just make Jason the point forward. Now that might work, but you just want him to be preserved throughout the season and not having the responsibility of running the offense. I mean, the thing that I look at
go ahead.
With Derek is there's a couple things that stand out previously in San Antonio. He played, according to Basketball Reference, he played point guard his first year. He played 17 games, so you throw that out. The second year he played point guard. He played 67 games. He started 55, 3.9 assists per game, 1.4 turnovers. Now the 50 he played 49 games before he was traded to Boston, and he averaged 5.6 assists to 1.8 turnovers. So that's a very good, if I do my math, that's more than a 3-to-1 assist to turnover ratio. So he averaged nearly 6 assists and was kind of classified as a shooting guard in his stint in San Antonio before he got to Boston in 21-22. So for those looking for encouragement, to me, that's an encouraging sign that he almost had 6 assists a game in that stretch. And the year before, he played, let me see here, 3.5. So that 1 year, I think he was hurt most of 2021. But 21-22, in that stretch with San Antonio, he averaged nearly 6 assists a game. So to me, that is a very encouraging sign in terms of him being able to distribute the ball.
I think partially, at least the thing we're leaving out of this conversation too, in terms of the who's going to start, could Malcolm jump in, replace Derek, and obviously that is a possibility. But I think at least out of the chute, they want this in part because they want Malcolm Brogdon to be the offense off the bench leading that unit, which Derek White is not reliably going to be that guy. Part of why, in addition to obviously the defensive ability, he slides in so well with the starting group. You're not looking to him for points. You're looking for him to facilitate. Now, we're presuming Malcolm Brogdon's health. We're presuming that he still has a 3-point shot, which last year was really an aberration as compared to, his career. So I don't know what that's going to look like, but if you're looking for someone to reliably give you 15 points off the bench, you are turning to Malcolm Brogdon. That's where you want him.
Agreed. Yeah, I mean, I think he can distribute better. I think he can defend better. But I thought he was a kind of a spark plug off the bench. And now the question is with other guys there, Svi and Sam Hauser with another year. Do you need Malcolm to be that primary scorer off the bench, or can he get some help? Because the bench will be interesting to see how all that shakes out with Peyton Pritchard now apparently going to play a bigger role. Does Al come off the bench at times or whatever? Is it just going to be Al and Robert Williams along with Jason and Jalen and Derek White? So it'll be interesting to see what this team does. And then also, I mean, there's an open roster spot. I don't think they're going to eager to fill it because there's going to be probably some real talented guys available as training camp approaches and guys get waived, especially places like Oklahoma City, which are like have a bunch of guys that are good NBA players are probably not going to make the team. So I do think they need another. I do think they need another player. They need a third big, unless you really have faith in Luke Cornett or you bring back Blake Griffin. And I don't think Mazzulla had particular confidence in Griffin toward the second half of last season. So with Malcolm, I think he can do more. Even though he won $6 Man a year, I think he can do more. I think he's capable of doing more. The question is what they ask him to do. But I think Derek will fit into whatever role that you give him. I'm confident in that. I think he'll try his ass off to be a good point guard or a good point forward or however you classify him. I don't think he's going to be trying to do too much. The question is how well will it work? How much time? Remember, remember Udoka a couple years ago, Marcus Smart's our point guard. We're like, hey, what? When Kemba was gone, after Kemba left, and it worked, and then it was effective. Not in certain games, it wasn't effective, but it got them to the finals and it got to the Eastern Conference Finals. So I think it's probably going to be time. It's going to need time for it to work, and I'm sure the Celtics will give Derek plenty of time.
I wasn't really planning to talk about Blake Griffin today, but what you just said flies in the face of some of the reporting that's been out there, which is the indication that the Celtics want him back, and he's not so sure he wants to come back, meaning, he may want to retire. He may want to play closer to his family out west. But what you just said is maybe Joe Mazzulla doesn't necessarily want him on the back end of the bench, which
he didn't play. He didn't have a real pivotal role in the second half of the season. Remember, Noah Vonleh made the team out of camp, and that didn't work because Noah couldn't stay out of foul trouble. So they waived him, and then Blake had his moments and stuff, but they used Cornette a lot. They had a third big, and they needed a third big, and it was like kind of Cornette. But this time, I think they even need a third big even more. Like Robert Williams is coming off. Are you going to expect him to play 70 games? No. And now Horford's 37. So who's the third center? It's Cornette. He's on a non-guaranteed deal. So yeah, I do think they need an effective third center. Like they need a guy, and the guys are out there are not attractive. I know like Dwayne Dedman and Bismack Biyombo. I think the Kings I saw that are waiving Nerlens Noel, to give a shot because they just signed JaVale McGee. I think they need one of those. I would go after Noel, not for 30 minutes a game, obviously, but just as that security blanket, as a third big who can play defense. And be, come home, he's a Boston guy, be the end of the bench guy. That's someone I think they should seriously consider, because I think center is a point in a position of concern with the health of Robert Williams and the age of Al Horford. And then, I just thought, I think they would want Blake back as a leader, but I don't know how much they feel like he's productive on the floor. Like, will he carve out a 12-minute a game role and really flourish? I thought he had stretches where he was okay and he played as best he could. But obviously, as we know, physically, he's not nearly what he once was, and there's certain limitations there.
Gary said 37 for Al Horford, and I knew that he was in his 30s, and yet the way we all talk about him, you would think he's 47 years old, not 37. And so it's that. It caught me. It was jarring for a second. I had to look it up to double check.
Well, I think it's just because we have 39-year-old Aaron Rodgers stuck in our head currently, and that's still,
we won't be seeing him for a little while.
Well, so. The point being is one bad turn somewhere, and there he goes. It's obviously just more likely. Al has been. I think the Celtics did a great job last year of managing the guys that are health concerns. And they're going to have to do it again and just hope for the best here. But everybody's doing that. Everybody's trying to make sure they get to the season healthy. It's hard. That's why sports are hard. That's why, sometimes these Golden State runs, when they just have everybody healthy at the end of the year, does it matter because they're all healthy and you're screwed because they're just way better than you. So it's just one of those things.
Let's talk about that, Gary, because that is the news this week in the NBA. They are replacing the original PRP, like the injection, the player resting policy that was instituted in 2017. We have a new, now friendlier, if you will, at least in name, but more stringent in practice. PPP, the triple P, which is the player participation policy, which says that if you are a star, and that is defined by if you have been an all-star or part of an all-NBA team in the last 3 seasons, you are a quote-unquote star. A team cannot have more than 2 or more than 1, I should say, star, cannot have multiple stars rest in a given game that is either nationally televised or is part of the in-season tournament or a playoff game. Obviously, not that stars would rest in a playoff game, but basically, Adam Silver is now threatening fines to make sure that not only as he tries to clean up the tanking issue they've been working on for years, he wants to make sure that there's less talk about players not being present for as Jason Tatum would say, that random Monday night game in Charlotte when fans pay all this money to come out and see their favorite players and half the team is rested. There was an example of who was it with Golden State? Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green. They all played in a home loss.
The game in Cleveland, right? The Cleveland was the next day, and Curry didn't play.
Utah. 2 nights later, all three of them sat out, and now they would be likely investigated and fined, according to this ESPN article. What do you think of these new rules that have been put in? There are a whole lot more details to it if anyone wants to read the articles, obviously. And do you think the Celtics, given that it's very rare, quite frankly, that unless they're hurt, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown even both miss games at the same time, are the Celtics a team that actually benefits from this?
Ever wish you could navigate the betting field with the confidence of a pro? Enter Odds Are. They're not a sports book, but they're the sports betting advisor you always needed. It's like having a playbook for smarter bets right in your pocket. I've been absolutely loving the experience, and I think you will too, especially since Celtics All Access listeners get a 30-day free trial. Elevate your game day and join the smart betting revolution. Go get it at oddsr.com/Celtics. That's oddsr.com/Celtics.
Well, they're one of the team with 2 stars, 2 all-stars on 2 players in this list. So, but I think at this point, both those guys are in their prime. So I don't think rest is a real possibility unless they're coming off injuries. And then you're also talking about national TV games too. Like, I've never seen Jason and Jaylen be sitting out national TV games. I don't think that they'll sit out national TV games, or that was ever a possibility before. I don't think this affects the Celtics as much. And in terms of the league, I just think this is the NBA's, like, how I'll put this. The NBA's just like, okay, we've had enough on this situation, and I agree with it. It's sad that they had to get this far, but and then there's players blaming the teams and saying the teams are the ones that are shutting us down. It's team doctors. Most of us guys want to really play, so if that's the case, then it shouldn't be a problem, But what happens in LA and teams, the Clippers and the Lakers, and guys who are aging, when you have you're playing Wednesday night and then you got the TNT game Thursday night, are you going to take the Wednesday night game off? And if you rest multiple guys, and that if you don't have injuries, is the NBA going to look into it? So it's a lot to unpack, and it'll be interesting to see the enforcement of it, where the league actually has doctors calling the teams and going, okay, why did LeBron and AD miss that Wednesday night home game against Orlando, because they're getting ready for the Thursday night TNT game at Golden State. Like, it's going to be a lot to unpack, but I think that it's probably something that was necessary.
Say though, like, the one thing I do like about Tatum and Brown, and unless one of them's hurt, they usually play as many games as they possibly can. I mean, Tatum has been, Iron Man. I'm knocking on wood as I speak. Tatum has been pretty durable throughout his career and has played through some stuff. And again, his quote, I like that. I like the fact that he likes playing. I like the fact that he thinks about that stuff. Jaylen, again, he's had some nagging injuries where he cuts his hand on a vase and like has to miss time. But, Jaylen's been pretty healthy throughout his entire career for the most part. I know he's had some unfortunate, like, banged up injuries. I know he missed the playoffs one year and that was tough. But, again, these are 2 guys that generally play a lot of games. And I think it's beneficial to them that they're in their prime right now as they introduce this rule. And as Gary said, I'm curious to see how they enforce it. I'm not quite sure how this is going to go. I mean, I highly doubt that whatever LeBron decides to do, they're going to look too much into what LeBron does. I think LeBron, if he wants to take a game off, I think they'll be okay. But it's the rest of I think it's just mainly like a Clippers thing, the Clippers, like, you guys just, it's maybe just a direct shot at Kawhi. Like, Kawhi, you can't be doing this like all the time. Like, you play 40 games a year. This is not beneficial to us. They do have, you have all these people spending all this money to come out and see stars. Like, as much as we want to, try and tiptoe around this league is very star driven. So, people pay through the nose to go see Nikola, and Jokic plays all the time. Doncic plays all the time. You don't have to worry about the younger guys. It's like we have this interesting, discrepancy between like these old aging out stars and the young crew coming up. There's a lot of talent coming up and there's a lot of talent coming down. There's like this middle ground that is like kind of a void, like the void that Jimmy Butler occupies is like a 32, 31-year-old, veteran that is a superstar. But there's a ton of the young guys that like at 26 and under, you can name like 25 guys off the top of your head that are all awesome and that you can't wait to see when they're 30. Like I can't wait. Like Devin Booker and Jason Tatum and Luka Doncic and all these guys when they're 30 years old, it's just gonna be the talent of this thing's gonna be ridiculous. It's gonna be amazing. So, we'll see how this goes to start, and they'll tweak it probably as we go because they're a smart league. But I think it's more of a direct shot of like, hey, Kawhi, figure your stuff out. Let's get you on the floor.
Stop resting. Stop. I just think the rest thing, and like Silver said, it's an 82 game season. They've stretched the season out. They've eliminated 4 games in 5 nights. They've done now there's rest during this play-in tournament for the teams who aren't in it. There's a longer all-star break. Remember, in the old days, they used to come back and play Tuesday after the all-star game. Now I think a couple of teams are playing Thursday and most are coming back and playing Friday. Like there's been all types of adjustments to the schedule. And I think what Silver is seeing is there's been no reduction in load management. Like, so he's saying to himself, well, as much as we've done all these things to tweak the schedule to make it easier, guys are not playing more. And, and guys are not getting hurt less because they're not playing more. The injuries are just as prevalent in the league with guys playing 68 games a year as they were when they were playing 78, or guys playing 58 as opposed to, 73 or 74. I think that we all expect that there's going to be guys, your standard durable NBA player is going to play 75, 74 games. So he's good, whatever reason, nagging injuries, whatever, illness, whatever, they're going to miss 8 to 10 games, like 8 maybe, right? You want all your star players in the 70s. Like Kawhi played 52 games, and I think Paul George played 56. Like you don't want guys. That's why, and then the encouragement for the awards. Like we're not giving awards to guys that are playing 58 games anymore. We're not doing that. You don't get an award for playing 2/3 of the games. And so I think the NBA is tired of it. The owners are tired, and now, the players, as I said before, the players are saying, well, it's the team doctor that are telling us to rest. Like we don't want. Like, well, we'll see. Okay, then now you get to play. Now, how will the production be? How many minutes will Ty Lue play, Kawhi 8 minutes in a game and go, he played. So, we showed you, okay, he played. What are you going to do now? Now you're going to tell me that he's got to play 40 minutes? Like, players are going to circumvent the system and teams, but you're going to see Kawhi in uniform and you're going to see him play time. Now, the question, as I said, is how much time? How worth it, how worth it is this going to be? Is this going to be effective? I don't think any of us know. I do think it's good for the league that obviously the players play on national TV. You're tired of seeing guys sit out, guys rest. You're tired of seeing guys literally in football jerseys at the end of the bench hanging out. You're tired of seeing Anthony Davis chilling, because now I think it's someone I saw this mention, like it's like sort of cool to be injured. But it's cool to be at the end of the bench in some cool ass gear. Just all right, guys. Just like that's a new, like that's embarrassing, dude. You're hurt.
Like Ben Simmons wearing like different outfits to all the Celtics playoff games, and he's
like it's the Ben Simmons or guys wearing fucking excuse my language, throwback jerseys or whatever. It's like, stop it. You're hurt.
Yeah.
Now it used to be in the old days when guys were hurt, like their arm was in a sling or they had a boot on the. Like I was like, okay, that dude's really hurt. Look at him. Now guys are jumping up and down and doing freaking moonwalks when they're a freaking alley-oop dunk. But I got plantar fasciitis or I got knee soreness. Like it's a joke. So yeah, this needed to happen. There's certain things that needed to happen. It just got like I remember the dress code and people are like, oh, it's racist. Like when I think it was when Kobe wore like a Donovan Mitchell. Donovan McNabb, sorry.
There you go.
Jersey at the end of the bench, like the league was like, okay, Kobe's involved now. Like we got one of our guys and he's wearing throwbacks at the end of the bench or whatever. Like has to stop. There's got to be a dress code. Like the players are going to push to the limit until the league does something. This is one of those cases. And I just think, it's not cool to be hurt anymore. It's not cool to be Anthony Davis with the shades on. Yeah, man. I'd probably be out there if I could, but I'd be down. Just wait. Hey, man, I'll be ready for the playoffs. Hey, way to go, Bron. Way to go. Like, I don't blame Bron. I think LeBron has legitimate injuries. I just think LeBron isn't as durable as he used to be. I mean, I don't blame Bron as much as I blame like Anthony Davis and some of these guys who just feel like. I mean, I just remember Kyrie telling me like, man, I ain't no 82 game year dude. Like this ain't me. And I think a lot of guys are good with that. Like if I give y'all 65, hey, man, I done put in a hard day's work. I'm good. And it's just like a lot of guys do believe that. Now there's other guys with Jason Tatum's philosophy of like, what if like that's a Jordan thing? Like, what if somebody has never seen me play in Charlotte? Some kid, his dad worked hard to get 2 tickets and he wants to see Tatum, me play. Like that's the way we all should believe. And they all should believe. But I just think the players got to the point where it's like anything else. If your job is like you can do 75% of the work you do now and get the same money, how many of us are going to be like, nah, man, I'm doing 110. Like, thanks. I'm going to do 110%. Okay, well, you get the same doing 75. It's like people are going to do 75. They're going to miss games. There seems to be a kind of a devaluing of the regular season, especially when Miami slices through the Eastern Conference after barely making the playoffs, or the Lakers as the 7th seed make it to the Western Conference Finals. There's a devaluing of the regular season. And then, I feel bad for cities like Charlotte, Minnesota, Orlando, because those are the games everybody picks as like games that you don't want to play. It's Minnesota on Tuesday. Like no one says the Lakers, right? You don't want to play against the Lakers. You want to play against the Heat. You want to play against the Knicks. You want to play at the Garden. None of these dudes are load managing at the Garden. They're load managing in Brooklyn because that's kind of not as important as a back-to-back, or they're load managing in Toronto. But we'll see. We'll see how this all goes. We'll see what they do with what they do with Al Horford. Are they going to come create? Remember last year? I mean, are they going to create a back injury because he had to remember the sore lower back? Yeah. Is that going to fly? Is the NBA going to be like, well, he's healthy? What about the age situation now? And then there's no shutting players down anymore. So Lillard and Beal and all these guys who were rested last year are going to be on the floor. You're going to be throwing these guys on the floor in situations where their team does not want them to play because they want to tank. So more tanking. So this is a fascinating role. I think it was necessary, but it's sad it had to get to this point.
Silver's going to have to clean up some of the background stuff. No more flying coach and staying in these dingy motels and $25 a day meal money. The players have it tough, but they're going to find a way.
I'm just gonna miss Gallinari at the end of the bench. He was throwing up like
you just like those nice Italian suits.
My God, he was really. And the only one that was weird, he wore like some cowboy stuff. I think at some point in the Texas Triangle down there, I think he was wearing he had cowboy boots and like a flannel shirt and like whatever jeans, the big ass belt buckle. But most of the time, Gallo was. I mean, he was ready.
He was nice and dressed.
He was.
He looked like the NBA in the 90s, man. He looked like that's what you did. You wore a suit. I mean, when I first started covering the league, the problem, that is a problem. It's something that's generational. Guys followed what the star players did. Yeah. It was Jordan's league. Jordan wore $1,000 suits to every game. So what did the young guys do? They wore $1,000 or they wore $400 suits. They couldn't afford the $5,000 suits or the $2,000 suits that Jordan was wearing. Players are wearing suits to every game. That's because Jordan was the model of the league and he wore suits to every game. So that's what the dress code was. I remember young Ray Allen, guys were wearing suits to games. as they're, now you see the walk up in the tunnel and guys are wearing, the James Harden stuff, and the guys are looking like crisscross. That's a reference before your time. Like, Chris.
No, it's not.
It's not. Good.
Guys are looking like Guys are looking like crisscross and
no, I mean the
Busta Rhymes and just they're looking ridiculous. But back in the day, suits were the thing. And then Iverson, who changed the league culturally on his own, came into the league, and then it became a more casual league. And now you got guys who do everything except not as like the suit thing with Gallo was a throwback because not a lot of guys wear suits.
Yeah.
Like they wear sweatsuits. They wear because everything now is being chill. Like guys don't wear, like Ray was probably the last Celtic that would wear suits. Not like Paul had suits and KG, and they all had suits, but like every game it was like more often just like this is what I wear to work.
I mean, your extremes are you got Gallo on one side, you got Tyler Hero dressing like Run DMC on the other.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy how it's changed, and the league is kind of lightened up on it. But some of the stuff is like, I mean, obviously it's fashion faux pas. Some of the stuff Westbrook wears or Dwayne Wade used to wear was like, oh boy. But the league is I just think. I mean, I had a conversation a few years ago with Vince Carter about this kind of how like the Jordan era had such an impact. And then Iverson came in and then there was a more casual league. And I just think now with the injuries, I just think, and we can it probably open up a whole nother conversation, but like the Isaiah Thomas thing, the hip injury, that, he was the one that started load management, but guys looked at that and they still look at that and go, that dude lost $100 million over playing through injury, right? He lost $100 million. I mean, he's still trying to get back into the league, and I think Isaiah now is 34. Like, so it might be over for him. I hope it isn't. I'd love to see him play for an NBA team. We all love Isaiah, one of the funnest guys I've ever covered. But, players looked at that and said, the teams don't care about us, so we got to care about us. And so I kind of understand why the beginning of load management, guys wanted their papers. They didn't want to ruin their careers. But now I think what the league found was that taking time off is not reducing injury.
Well, like I said, guys, we won't go an hour. So
here we are.
We go 45, 50. It's always good when Gary Washburn's here. We go down, different paths we weren't even expecting. We have, long but fun intellectual conversations about things, and I don't want the show to end, so we keep going. Gary, thanks so much for being here as always. We'll definitely have you back real soon before the season gets going, and hopefully you can fight off boredom for just a little bit longer.
Yeah, a couple more weeks. I'll be okay. Don't worry about me. I'm not no load management for me. I'll be ready to go. Media day. I'm putting in my full 82.
You're going to be sitting there in mid-November going, man, I could use a summer vacation.
Yeah, we're somewhere in Orlando or somewhere, or Charlotte or Minnesota. Like, oh man, get me out of here. No.
Eric, of course, is part of the CLNS family, one of the hosts of the A-List podcast. Make sure you check that out there as well. Meant to mention that earlier. Thank you for being here with us. We'll do it again next week. For Gary, for Evan, I'm Adam. We'll talk to you again soon.
New FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets, guaranteed. Plus, all customers who bet $5 will get $100 off NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Ever wish you could navigate the betting field with the confidence of a pro? Enter Odds Are. They're not a sports book, but they're the sports betting advisor you always needed. It's like having a playbook for smarter bets right in your pocket. I've been absolutely loving the experience, and I think you will too, especially since Celtics All Access listeners get a 30-day free trial. Elevate your game day and join the smart betting revolution. Go get it at oddsr.com/Celtics. That's oddsr.com/Celtics.